The story begins with a worker who hesitates before cutting his own hand. Suddenly, his boss arrives and says, "I've arranged your insurance papers." After hearing this, the worker goes ahead and cuts his fingers. In the next scene, we meet our hero, Suk, an insurance inspector. He arrives to stop this man, who forces his workers to injure themselves so he can claim their insurance money. While he gives his workers a little money, he keeps the majority of the insurance for himself. Suk catches him red-handed and beats him severely. He asks, "Do you even have insurance?" and grabs the weapon the man was about to use on his workers' fingers. Then, the scene shifts to our female lead, Seol, who is crafting something from wood. During her work, she accidentally cuts her finger, yet her face shows no reaction. Returning to the villain, the police have now arrested him. He is facing charges for billions of money fraud and insurance. Suk then enters his company, where a woman stops him and says, "Because of you, we've lost another group contract." Suk responds calmly, "I have saved money, didn't I? We'll use it for future contracts." He walks toward his desk, but a co-worker stops him, saying, "You should have told the police first." Suk says, "You know they never arrive on time." Another co-worker adds, "Do you remember that girl, Rin?" Then we see Suk, who has arrived at a hospital. A woman is crying in front of a female police officer, explaining, "My divorce happened a long time ago, and we have been struggling ever since." Suk watches silently, his anger evident, before he walks inside. We then see a young girl named Rin, her body burned and her left eye covered with a patch. Suk observes her carefully. A flashback takes us 1 year earlier, where this girl is sitting with Suk. She explains, "My eyes used to hurt, so I used to rub them often. One morning, the pain became unbearable, but my mother gave me pocket money, which made me happy." She hands Suk a coin and says, "You can play video games with this." Suk takes the coin, but he is visibly angry. Back in the present, Suk looks sad and frustrated. The girl tries to comfort him, saying, "It was just an accident." She begins to explain further that she accidentally spilled noodles all over herself. At the same time, Suk arrives at the girl's mother, who is talking about buying a car. Suk confronts her, saying, "Do you know how much insurance money you are about to receive? 5 million for lost vision and 7 million for burns." It becomes clear that Rin's mother did all of this on purpose to claim the insurance money. Suk is furious. "I'll make sure you go to jail," he shouts. The scene then shifts to a royal auction house filled with paintings. Here, an employee named Miss Kim is there, and a man next to her is admiring one of the paintings. Meanwhile, our heroine, Seol, is in her dressing room holding a sharp tool. She goes to the auction and tears the painting apart. Before the auction starts, she instructs the staff to remove it. Miss Kim stops her and asks, "Why did you do this?" Seol explains, "The painting was fake. If it had been sold, we would have faced legal consequences, and you would have been questioned too." Seol gets angry and retorts, "You don't even know which paintings are real and which are fake." Actually, Seol is the head art auctioneer and team leader at Royal Auction, the nation's leading art auction house. The scene cuts to Suk, who is standing in front of a memorial where the girl's ashes are kept. A photo of the girl makes it seem like she was his sister. We then flash back to the past. Suk is by her body, crying. Another man is standing nearby, smiling slightly. This man could be her fiancé or husband. The story then shows a courtroom scene where the girl's death is declared an accident. The man responsible is released, which enrages Suk. He almost attacks him. Back in the present, we see Suk running and arriving at a location where an elderly couple is unloading some belongings. Another flashback shows Suk at his sister's funeral. His sister had told him she was going out with her boyfriend. Suk then examines some insurance documents. It is revealed that her boyfriend, Soo, is the nominee, meaning he would inherit all the insurance money after her death. Another scene shows Soo leaving the courtroom, receiving a 1-year sentence for his involvement. In the present, Suk is still observing everything. He says to himself, "This time, I won't be fooled." Here, the auction finally begins at the auction house, where the auctioneer is Seol. Then the bidding starts on the paintings, and the last painting attracts 2 bidders. In the end, one man wins it for a staggering 5.3 billion won. After the auction, the after-party begins. Kim is drinking heavily. Han-seol arrives and stands next to another woman, talking about Kim. The other woman says she seems to be an associate auctioneer, and she doesn't like her at all. From a distance, Kim is watching them. The man who bought the painting is also observing Han-seol. Han-seol steps outside, taking a deep breath. The man, whose name is Jun Byum, comes out too and asks her, "Are you okay?" She replies, "Yes, I'm fine." He says, "I used to place online bids before, but the real fun is bidding in person." Han-seol then says, "I have seen you before. I never forget a face I've seen once." He removes his glasses and looks at her intently. They shake hands and look at each other. Then Kim approaches. She compliments Jun Byum and talks about the auction. Han-seol encourages them to continue their discussion and leaves. Miss Kim then hands her card to him, but he gets angry and throws it away, saying, "You shouldn't have come." Meanwhile, Han-seol is in the dressing room, preparing to take some tablets. Kim arrives there as well. Han-seol scolds her lightly. "We're still on the job. You smell of alcohol, and you shouldn't be in front of VIPs like this. You need to be careful." Kim teases back, "Are you angry because I came between you two?" They continue their playful conversation. Kim says, "If your secrets were revealed to everyone, I'd enjoy seeing your face. Take all the time you want, because I'm not letting you go." The scene shifts to Yoo-suk. He receives a call from Kim. She tells him, "I want to tell you about a murder that happened because of insurance." She gives him her address and says she will explain everything to him. Yoo-suk leaves his room and finds Inspector Joo-young lying on a sofa. He tells her everything, and she agrees to join him. They arrive at a hotel basement. Yoo-suk tries to call Kim, but suddenly someone falls from above. It's Kim, falling from the top of the building. She dies on impact. Yoo-suk realizes it's her, because her phone is still ringing. The next day, we see Kim's postmortem. The doctor explains that her death was caused by the fall from the building. The doctor explains that Kim's bones were completely broken, which caused her death. He also notes that she had been in a struggle before. There were marks on her neck. Joo-young reports all of this to her senior officer, Pyo-sung. He says, "You and I will handle this case together." Yoo-suk still believes that I let his sister's killer go free. Meanwhile, Yoo-suk is with Rin. She is still telling the police that noodles had spilled on her. Yoo-suk, along with a friend, Yoon, decides, "We'll come here every day so that she feels like she's not alone." He also thinks about Kim and wonders, if she was going to die, why did she call me? She must have been trying to reveal something to me. Next, we see Kim's co-workers attending her funeral. The woman who had been with her that night watches them. Here, Yoo-suk manages to sneak into the royal auction building. He stops in front of a mirror, and suddenly the lights go out. Then lights start flickering back on, moving as if alive. Just then, Han-seol walks past him and stops, adjusting her hair before walking straight ahead. Yoo-suk also moves forward, and the lights continue to flicker. At the same time, Han-seol arrives at her president's office, visibly worried. The president says, "What is happening here? If this continues, my company could shut down," she exclaims. Just then, the manager runs in, saying, "The police are here for questioning." Han-seol responds, "I'll handle talking to them." She approaches both officers and calmly explains that she was at the auction party that day and that Kim worked under her. Joo-young asks, "Can you give us the member list of that auction party?" She refuses and says, "Next time, bring a warrant if you want to ask more questions." But Joo-young continues, pressing, "Where were you that day? What was your relationship with her?" Then, Han-seol exits nervously, trembling. Meanwhile, Yoo-suk arrives at the terrace, the very spot from which Kim jumped. In the washroom, we see Han-seol trembling as she takes tablets. Then, we see that both Pyo-sung and Joo-young are preparing for what comes next. At that moment, Yoo-suk appears. Yoo-suk starts mocking the police, saying, "You only solve small cases." Pyo-sung, his senior, gets angry at him. Then, both of them leave. Next, Joo-sung talks to Yoo-suk and explains that Kim had been struggling with depression for a long time and was undergoing treatment. She also mentions meeting her senior officer, Han-seol, who had been very rude. Then, she sends Yoo-suk a photo of Han-seol. When Yoo-suk sees the photo, he recognizes her as the same woman he had seen in the building earlier. He immediately begins to gather information about her. Meanwhile, we see Yoo-suk at Kim's funeral. Han-seol is also there. Yoo-suk sits quietly, while Kim's co-workers are nearby. One worker cries, saying, "Miss Kim wouldn't have done this. She was supposed to get a promotion." Yoo-suk notices Han Seol leaving and decides to follow her. Outside, Han Seol is trying to start her car, but it doesn't work. Yoo-suk steps in to help. As she drives away, she watches Yoo-suk while leaving. Yoo-suk then checks records about Han Seol and finds out that she was supposed to receive money through insurance, about 700 million won. He calls the man, only to learn that he has already died. Later, we see Han Seol watching a video with a man named Yong-soo next to her fiancé. Here, Yoo-suk learns that the man died 10 days ago. Yoo-suk meets Ju-sung and explains that someone was trying to take Han Seol's position from her. He asks Ju-sung to investigate how Han Seol's fiancé died. Ju-sung later confirms that he drowned. In the next scene, Yoo-suk goes to meet Han Seol. He gives her his card and says, "I'm a life insurance investigator. I'm here to find out if it was murder or suicide." Han Seol replies, "Why are you talking like the police? I already told them everything I knew. You just told them more than necessary, thinking you were doing your job." Meanwhile, Ju-sung receives a call from someone about Miss Kim's murder, who tells her that it's a murder, not suicide. Back with Yoo-suk, he talks to Han Seol about her fiancé. He says, "He died in the river 10 days ago, and you were supposed to benefit by 700 million. Did you know he had canceled the policy before he died?" Han Seol says, "Yes, I knew." "What do you think? That I killed my fiancé for money? How are you connecting this to Miss Kim?" Yoo-suk calmly responds, "I can sniff out people and tell if they would do anything for money." Han Seol slightly smiles upon hearing this. Finally, it is revealed that Han Seol herself was the one who pushed Kim, leading to her death. Now, we see another flashback. Han Seol receives a call from a man named Do-eun, who tells her, "There's been an accident. Can you come to the scene quickly?" She rushes to the location and sees Yong-soo's body. Surprisingly, her face shows no emotion. She isn't sad, and no tears fall from her eyes. Back in the present, Yoo-suk and Han Seol are talking when Do-eun arrives. He tells Yoo-suk, "You can't just talk to her like that." Yoo-suk asks him, "If you know Song-ju, then you can give me information about him." He slips his card into Do-eun's pocket. In the next scene, Do-eun and Han Seol arrive at a bar. They reflect on past events. 2 days before, Song-ju had shared a story about Greek mythology, which inspired him to lock his hotel. Song-ju had also commented that Han Seol is strange, saying, "Sometimes I feel like I don't even know him." He also explains that the insurance policy is set up so that Han Seol will receive the benefits. Back in the present, Do-eun ignores calls from his girlfriend, who is outside trying to reach him. Meanwhile, we see Yoo-suk, who is deep in thought, trying to piece together all the clues. The next day, another auctioneer comes to Han Seol. She is shown some of Miss Kim's belongings that were left on her desk. At the same time, Yoo-suk is talking to some men involved in insurance fraud. One of his co-workers comes and reveals Miss Kim had a life insurance policy, and her family didn't know about it. Then, Yoo-suk decides to meet Kim's mother. He says, "You could have claimed the insurance money anytime." Han Seol also arrives, carrying some of Kim's belongings. Seeing these items, Kim's mother starts crying. Because the items are heavy, Yoo-suk helps carry them upstairs. The three of them enter Miss Kim's room. Inside, Kim's mother tells Han Seol, "You can take whatever office supplies you need. I'll make tea for you while you work." Han Seol and Yoo-suk start looking around the room. Yoo-suk finds a card, which he keeps in his pocket. Han Seol discovers a book that contains detailed information about her daily routine, where she goes, and what she does. Yoo-suk approaches her, but Han Seol says, "I just need to take some documents. You should go outside." Yoo-suk leaves the room, and the three of them continue their work. Yoo-suk and Han Seol sit down with Kim's mother, discussing the recent events. Yoo-suk asks Han Seol about Miss Kim, what kind of person she was. Han Seol explains, "She was very professional and hardworking. She was genuinely good." Yoo-suk comments, "Most of the time, in cases like this, colleagues bully people. But you're saying nothing like that happened to her." Han Seol doesn't give him a direct answer. Then, Han Seol asks Miss Kim's mother if she noticed anything unusual. She replies, "Yes, something did seem strange." We see a flashback. Kim is lying in bed, feeling sad. Her mother brings her food, but Kim explains that she was meeting her boyfriend and felt upset at that moment. In the end, her mother asks, "Do you really know your boyfriend?" Han Seol denies it. Her mother looks heartbroken and says, "I didn't even know about my own daughter." Then, Yoo-suk and Han Seol step outside and start arguing. Yoo-suk says, I will find out what really happened to her. Was it suicide, or was she murdered? Han Seol responds, you'll never know who the real victim was, and walks away. Yoo-suk notices a card from a restaurant and keeps it for reference. Meanwhile, Pyo-sung is seen investigating Miss Kim's call records, discovering that most of her calls were with Yang-soo. When Ju-young arrives, Pyo-sung asks, did we find any information on Yang-soo? Ju-young confirms, yes, I found it. His file is on your desk. Pyo-sung picks up the file and learns that Yang-soo was Han Seol's fiancé. Realizing this, he grabs his coat and rushes out. Elsewhere, Yoo-suk is talking to men involved in insurance fraud. One of them instructs him, bring your car and crash it into ours so we can claim the insurance money. Yoo-suk gives him his car number, 7622. In town, another man waits, thinking, I wonder when Yoo-suk will arrive. He'll probably come in a small car. Suddenly, Yoo-suk shows up driving a huge truck. Seeing this, the men panic and try to escape. Yoo-suk crashes their car into someone's, stopping them. He gets out of the truck and confronts them. I was about to crash into you, but you hit the car first. They say, were you trying to attack us? Here, Yoo-suk notices another person who is waiting for him. Then, he introduces that person. This is Detective J, the head of this police station. Just then, more police arrive and take all the criminals into custody. Afterward, Yoo-suk speaks with Detective J to gather information about Yang-soo. J explains that his fiancée had come to see him, but strangely, she showed no expression on her face. She shows Yoo-suk a video on her laptop that captures the incident, which he watches carefully. The scene shifts to a flashback where Han Seol picks up a keychain. In the past, Yang-soo and Han Seol are together on a boat, and Yang-soo reassures her, you don't need to worry. I already canceled the policy. Back in the present, Han Seol throws the keychain into the trash. Soon, she receives a call from her boss, the president, who has prepared a meal for her. Their conversation reveals that she has known this lady since childhood. She eats the fish prepared for her but later vomits it, showing her discomfort. The scene shifts again to Yoo-suk, who arrives at the same restaurant that was associated with the card he found earlier at Kim's house. This restaurant belongs to Yang-soo. Yoo-suk learns that Miss Kim used to come here often. A man explains that the day before Yang-soo died, Miss Kim came here to meet him. A flashback shows Miss Kim sitting in the restaurant while Yang-soo is there as well. In the present, Pyo-sung also arrives at the restaurant and sees Yoo-suk leaving. He then goes inside and later catches up with him on the deck. Pyo-sung explains, Miss Kim met Yang-soo and he died. 10 days later, she was also killed. Both are dead now. Yoo-suk observes him and compliments Pyo-sung, saying, I didn't know you were this smart. Pyo-sung asks, what are you doing here? This isn't your job. Yoo-suk replies, you don't see everything and that's why you always follow me. But Pyo-sung says, you think too much. Your sister also died the same way, but you're still insisting it was murder. Yoo-suk becomes angry and asks, does thinking that give you peace? Then he leaves in his car, feeling slightly sad. Then a flashback shows Yoo-suk happy with his sister. She tells him, I'm going out with my boyfriend. Don't worry about me. He waves her off, feeling joyful at that moment. But the next scene reveals that his sister has died, and he is devastated, crying over her loss. Finally, we see Yoo-suk arriving at the bar where Han Seol is sitting. The bar owner walks away. Then, Yoo-suk approaches her and says, Miss Kim came to meet your fiancé the day before your fiancé's death. Why do you think they met? Han Seol replies, how are we supposed to know? No matter how close we are, we can't tell. Yoo-suk glares at her and adds, in love affairs, people can do anything. They can kill or be killed. Or maybe he was killed for money. That's how insurance scammers operate. Once the money starts coming in, they always want more, enough to make people notice them. Han Seol asks, do you really want to know? Yoo-suk leans closer. Did you kill them? Han Seol again smiles strangely, leaving the question hanging. The scene shifts to a flashback. Han Seol enters a room and sees Miss Kim and her fiancé together. Miss Kim notices Han Seol, smiles at her, and continues. In the present, Han Seol thinks about this moment with sadness. The scene shifts back to Yoo-suk and Ju-young discussing the situation. Yoo-suk says, I don't think Han Seol knew about this. Her fiancé was having an affair with Miss Kim. Yoo-suk says, Yang-soo didn't start killing either. When the insurance payout didn't come, he made my sister a scapegoat. Ju Yong interjects, do you think Han Seol has already taken money from them before? The next day, Han Seol meets her boss in the elevator. He warns her, people are asking a lot of questions about you. They are blaming you for Miss Kim's death. The scene shifts to Do-eun, who is taking photos of paintings. His girlfriend approaches, saying, why did you ignore me that day? I'm scared of her now. You should stay away from Han Seol. Can't you see what's happening? Do-eun responds angrily. You can't talk about her like that. The next scene shows Yoo-suk with Rin. She says, if I tell the truth about my mom, will you stop her from going down the wrong path? Yoo-suk replies, if you don't tell the truth, your mom will continue on the wrong path. Rin then confesses everything. As they leave, a coworker says, how could a mother do this? Yoo-suk tells the coworker, prepare the papers for Rin so we can take care of her. Suddenly, Yoo-suk receives a call from the insurance fraud prevention team. What he hears leaves him shocked. Later, he is seen in the office reviewing documents, which include information about a doctor connected to the case. Yoo-suk discovers that a doctor named Choi Jun had committed suicide by injecting himself, and he was Han Seol's boyfriend before Young-soo. In the next scene, we see Yoo-suk sitting with his coworkers. Yoo-suk explains, if Choi Jun had died, Han Seol would have received 50 crores. But before dying, Choi Jun canceled his insurance policy. Yoo-suk's coworker comments, that girl manipulates people, drives them crazy in love, and then kills them for money. So far, 2 of Han Seol's exes are already dead. Yoo-suk then goes to the clinic where Choi Jun worked. A doctor refuses to give him any information, but a nurse notices him. Outside, Yoo-suk waits and tells the nurse, I just need a minute to talk. She jokes that nowadays, even talking costs money. He takes her to eat, and she explains that Han Seol had been depressed. Yoo-suk asks why, and the nurse says it was because her ex-boyfriend had died. She confirms that Han Seol had previous boyfriends. One died in a terrorist attack in the Middle East, and another, Choi Jun, committed suicide. Hearing this, Yoo-suk is shocked. 3 of Han Seol's exes have died. Meanwhile, Han Seol tries to destroy some papers Miss Kim had prepared against her but cannot finish because Do-eun arrives and confronts her about whether she really loved Young-soo, asking if she received any insurance money. Han Seol, furious, denies it and leaves. On her way, she sees a life insurance poster and smiles mysteriously. The case becomes increasingly complicated for Yoo-suk, who begins investigating the terrorist attack in Syria, where Han Seol's ex died. Later, Han Seol's co-worker brings her a painting titled Orphan from Syria. After seeing it, she steps back, frightened. As she sits, she examines a strange photograph in the painting. Meanwhile, Yoo-suk storms into the company and tells a story to Han Seol. He says, there was a girl whose ex had a life insurance policy, but he died in a terrorist attack. The girl was supposed to receive the money. That girl's life had been marked by tragedy and loss. Each of her ex-boyfriends had life insurance policies, but fate denied her any benefit. Her first boyfriend's policy had already been canceled before his death, leaving her with nothing. The second boyfriend's death led her into depression, and she met a doctor she fell in love with. He, too, took a life insurance policy in her name, but he also died, leaving her empty-handed again. Even her third boyfriend, the owner of a restaurant, drowned, but before dying, he had canceled his policy. By now, Han Seol could have received 20 crores from the first, 50 crores from the second, and 70 crores from the third boyfriend. Now, due to the cancellations, she never received a penny. Yoo-suk reflects, if anyone loves Han Seol, they are doomed. Love can make people do anything, even lose their sanity. People were so obsessed that they were willing to give everything, even their lives. Han Seol turns to Yoo-suk, standing directly in front of him, and asks, what do you see when you look at me? Who do you think will be the next one to love me? Yoo-suk is speechless, frozen by her presence, only able to stare at her. Then, smiling, she says, you're right, but my first boyfriend died in a terror attack. So did I cause that attack? The policy was canceled. I didn't find anything in any of them. So why would I kill them? But he says, maybe you're hiding something behind them because the same thing happened all 3 times. So this can't be a coincidence. She asks him, what good is this? She tells him to leave, saying, next time you come here unannounced, I'll call the police and file a complaint at your office. He replies, don't cause any trouble, but I'll keep showing up. You can't escape me. He then leaves. Next, we see that while he was running, he sees that his sister's boyfriend's shop was closed and his family had gone away. A nearby man reveals that they received money for the redevelopment work going on there and left. Meanwhile, at the company, we see that a video of Kim and Seal's conversation has been uploaded to an app. In it, Kim tells her that she has very little time, so live as long as you can, and after that, Kim died. Everyone was watching that when Seal arrives. She asks what's going on. When she sees the video, she doesn't react. She just tells them to mind their own business and leaves. Here, Yusuk was watching the same video. Noticing the timing, he tells that Kim called him just moments after that, so he thought she was going to tell him about it. But Seal must have reached her before that. But then who could have recorded this video? Meanwhile, Seal's boss, managing director Song Jae, also goes to President Kim to tell her about the video. But Seal was already there. But even then, he tells the president about the video. But Seal found some chat screenshots on Kim's computer. They were between manager Song Jae and Kim, which suggested they were having an affair. They had even lived together. Director Song Jae had promised to give her Seal's place. Seal says that now he couldn't keep his promise. This could be a valid reason for Kim's suicide. He also yells, "You're blaming me for everything." Kim then starts saying, "You're blaming each other." She then says, "If you want to hide something, you have to come up with something new to distract yourself." She then shows them a painting. It was auctioned in Hong Kong. She got word that it was here. So she says, if we sell it at a record price in the upcoming auction, all the things will be overshadowed. It will be the only thing that will be discussed. She then tells them to find it, saying, "Whoever brings it first will be first in line to become my successor." As they leave the office, Director Song Jae first drops Seal's iPad and breaks it, then threatens Seal, saying, "No one should know about their chatting. Otherwise, it won't be good." She also says, "No, I'll use it again and again as long as I want." But then we see that Seal deletes that chat. Meanwhile, President Kim goes into her secret room, which was locked. Inside, there were many paintings and among them a family painting. Seeing it, she says, "Your daughter is nothing like you. That's why I like her." Meanwhile, at the police station, Hyo-sung is watching CCTV footage from the day of Kim's death. He sees that Kim first went to the rooftop. A short time later, Seal was also go there, and Kim died shortly thereafter. This also makes him suspect Seal, but there's no concrete evidence. So they have to find the witness, and it was the same person who called Ju-young that day and told her that Kim's death wasn't a poisoning incident, but a murder. So now they have to find that person. Just then, Ju-young receives a call from Yusuk. So she goes to meet him, and now he'll help Ju-young with this. So they first go to the place where that person calls her, but there's no CCTV nearby. So they ask a nearby shop owner, but she gets angry because she thinks they're the police, hoping they've come to arrest her son. But Yusuk explains that he's come to check on something, and right in front of them was a truck that belonged to her. It had been parked there for a long time, covered in dust. So his dash cam must have recorded something. He just wanted to see it. So he takes some stuff from them and gives them money, and then they get the footage. Then Ju-young sees a girl in it, who played the recording from her phone and played it to them over the phone. Meanwhile, on the other side, Seal is searching for the owner of the painting. Then she discovers a rumor that a Korean businessman had won it over and that the vice president of Hong Kong knows about it. Just then, the bell rings. She goes outside and finds a parcel in the name of her boyfriend, Young-soo. She quickly comes downstairs, but the delivery boy has already left. She asks the guard, but his name isn't on the record. He asks for CCTV footage and says he'll only be able to tell after the manager reviews it. There, Yusuk tries to understand the mystery. He was trying to figure out what Seal might have gained from the deaths of her 3 boyfriends. What was behind all this? Here Seal drinks the same wine that had come in Young-soo's name, and she started remembering him. The next day, she learned from CCTV footage from the management office that the delivery boy was from the courier company Dalio Quick. She asked her colleague, Song-mi, which courier service they used. She told her the name was Dalio Quick. Seal asked for his number. Then she learned that Do-eun had sent it. She went straight to him, angry that he had sent the wine. She wouldn't let him speak. She said, "Did you want to make me feel guilty? Or do you want to prove that I killed Young-soo?" But he said, "Sorry." He says, "Young-soo told me to do this, but I should have told you." Just then, Do-eun's sister, Eun-hai, arrives. Seal starts to leave, saying, "We'll talk about this some other time." But she stops her, saying, "Let's have dinner together today and drink wine. You liked that gift, didn't you?" Seal realizes she sent it. She also says, "You must be shocked, but Dune couldn't give it to me, so I gave it to you. If you have any problems, go and ask your dead fiancé. But she doesn't say anything. She just thanks him and leaves. We're then shown in flashback that Yong-soo had asked Do-eun to give the wine to Seol. He had said, if anything happens to me, give it to her. Perhaps he finds out that Seol's old boyfriend is dead. Then at present, when Seol goes to the company, she finds Yoo-suk there. He's moved to General Insurance after talking to his boss. Now, he's become their new fine art insurance account manager. So, he'll be coming back here frequently. Then he meets Seol. She says, "It was nice meeting you." Then she takes him to the auction house. He tells her, "Don't even think about hiring a new account manager other than me." She also says, "As long as you work well, I won't have any problems." Then she takes him around the place, telling him who can go where, who can't, and how much security there is. But he says, "You must know everything, right? Where there's CCTV, where there isn't. And you must know how to get to the rooftop without anyone noticing." She just stares at him briefly, but says nothing. She then begins to show him the rest of the area and then takes him to her art storage room. If anything gets broken or stolen, he'll have to pay for it. But he says, "I also saw your video. What did Kim want to tell me before she died?" She says, "Maybe the secret behind my boyfriend's death. You're sure I killed him, but there's no proof. That's why you came here with this excuse." He also says, "You're very smart. So tell me, who's that next man?" She smiles and starts to walk away, but he blocks her way. She moves very close to him, as if kissing him. Then she tells him that everyone is watching from the monitoring room. So if you don't want any misunderstandings, move away. He notices the camera in front of him, so he moves away. Then, coming out, Seol warns him not to come in without permission in the future. Otherwise, instead of replacing him, they'll change their insurance company. As they leave, Yoo-suk's talking to Dong, his co-worker. He's looking for Kim's car because her insurance was still valid, but it wasn't with the cars outside. But when Yoo-suk remembers it again, he goes to the parking lot. He finds the car there and unlocks it. Inside, he finds a Wen Palace card. Then, we see Seol came to Hwang's bar. Seol told her about the wine. She says maybe he wanted to surprise you. But Do-eun's sister was overreacting. She should be thanking you. You've done so much for them. Meanwhile, Yoo-suk meets Dong for dinner and asks him to find out about Wen Palace. The next day, Seol meets with Hong Kong's president's wife, who used to live there, to find out about the painting's owner. She shows her some of her paintings, as she also ran an art gallery. She then explains that she's the daughter of the N Group family, so you have to put her paintings in your auction. You have to sell them. She means the painting was her own, and she wanted to sell at high price, so Seol would have to do a favor for her. She then tells Seol about the artist, saying rumors say he's the CEO of a successful startup company and that he mentioned James Peake during the bidding. Seol searches for him. The company was your home, and the CEO's name was Jun Byum. Then she realizes it was Jun Byum she met on the day of the auction. So she calls him and arranges a meeting. Meanwhile, Yoo-suk observes a boy with a leg injury arrives at the company, asking for insurance money. But Yoo-suk recognizes him because he's faked such an injury before. He tries to hit him, but runs away. Meanwhile, Jun Byum goes to Royal Auction, where Seol is waiting for him. She shows him her paintings. She tells him about them, and then shows him the painting of the child, which Jun Byum had actually sent her. She was going to auction it. She wanted him to see it one last time, as the painting was special to him. He tells Seol, "I used to go to Hong Kong every vacation. I saw this painting in an art gallery. I looked at it for an hour, and I have more like it. Would you like to see them?" She says, "Yes, of course." Then they go to a restaurant. Over dinner, Jun Byum starts telling her a story about a girl who shook the entire nation. But poor Seol, that girl had no place to hide. Then she tells him about the painting. "I heard about it and you bought it. So you gave me this. I want to put it back in the main lot in my next auction." He gets a little upset, thinking that means you're interested in it, not me. But she doesn't talk about it. Regarding the painting, she says that many people here want it, so you'll only get 30% more than its price. He says, "It's a good offer, but I've kept it very carefully." So she asks, "Then what else do you want?" He says, "There's more than just money, and you must have understood that." But she sniffs. "I'll give you more time to think. It must be very valuable to you, right? Then think carefully before you tell me." Meanwhile, they were checking the same girl on CCTV. but she was going from different places. Perhaps she was trying to elude them. But then they spot her at a security checkpoint where she typed in her card. This means they'll find out who she is. Meanwhile, Dom tried to find out about Wen Palace, but there were so many such palaces. He thought there might be a secret place. So, to find out, Yusuk went to meet someone who used to do insurance for him a long time ago. Yusuk had sent him to jail for this, and he was still in jail. So, before Yusuk's arrival, he hid some documents and recently made another false claim, saying he had injured his leg, but he was completely fine. So Yusuk made a deal with him, saying he would do his work for him because he used to run a courier service. So he sent all his men to find that Wen Palace. After that, Yusuk finds its address. Here the police arrested that girl, and she was actually Eun-hye, Do-eun's younger sister. Do-eun's sister, an intern at the royal auction. She then tells Pyo-sung that she saw Seol kill Kim. Here Yusuk goes to the palace. The card unlocks the gate. He then checks every room. Here he sees a mini house. On the other side, Seol was bathing at home. Yusuk goes to the balcony and sees a girl from the building opposite, who is actually Seol. He is shocked by this. Then he hides there. After that, he checks that mini house and finds a phone inside it. Here at the police station, Eun-hye finally reveals the truth about the night of the incident. She says that Seol is the one who killed Kim. She explains that she saw everything with her own eyes. On the night of the charity auction event, she went to the archive room after the event to organize some catalogs. She waited for the elevator for a long time, but it never came. So, she decided to take the stairs instead. While walking down the stairway, she suddenly saw Seol running down from the rooftop. Seol looked extremely nervous, like someone trying to escape from something. At that moment, I felt that something was strange, but I did not understand what happened until she walked outside the building. Outside, people were already panicking. Someone had just fallen from the rooftop and died. That person was Miss Kim. From that moment, Eun-hye became certain that Seol was involved in Kim's death. However, she kept her identity hidden when she first reported the information. When Pyo-sung asks her why she did that, she explains that she was afraid. Seol is a powerful and manipulative woman. If Seol discovered who reported her, Seol would try to destroy her life. She was also worried about her brother Do-eun. He used to work as an underwater photographer, but now he only takes photos for events at the auction house. She feared that if Seol found out the truth, her brother might become another victim. According to her, Seol is the type of person who manipulates everyone around her. Then Pyo-sung asks about the video and asks if she knows who recorded it. Eun-hye says she has seen the video before, but she does not know who recorded it. Pyo-sung then reminds her that she was part of the auction team staff on the night of the event, but she explains that she spent the entire time setting up for the auction, so she could not have recorded it. She even offers to let them check her phone if they want proof. After reviewing her statement and checking security cameras, the investigators notice something important. The witness's story matches the CCTV footage. The cameras clearly show that Seol followed Kim up to the rooftop. Because of this evidence, the police finally begin treating Seol as a murder suspect. At the same time, a large charity auction event is taking place. Many rich collectors and powerful businessmen are attending. Before the auction begins, Yusuk approaches Seol and asks to talk to her. He says the conversation will only take 5 minutes, but Seol coldly refuses. She says she has no time for that because the event is about to start. Then she walks away without another word. The auction finally starts. The auctioneer introduces the first artwork. It is a painting called The Abyss by Kim Sungmin. Soon another painting is introduced. This one is called Vanished Sensation by Fabien Leclerc, a rising European artist who has recently gained attention among collectors. Bidding for this piece becomes extremely intense. Meanwhile, a flashback shows President Kim privately speaking with a powerful businessman named Chairman Park Min-cheol, the leader of Taemyeong Group. She shows him several artworks that she believes will become extremely valuable in the future. She confidently tells him that these artists will become famous soon. If he buys their works now, their value could increase 10 times in the next few years. Chairman Park listens carefully. He asks if she is telling him that he should win the auction at any cost. She smiles confidently. Chairman Park seems convinced. Now at present, finally, the painting is sold for billions of won. The winner is Chairman Park Min-cheol himself. The auctioneer proudly announces that part of the money will go to support young artists. Everything appears successful, but suddenly, the situation changes. Just after the auction ends, several police officers walk directly towards Seol. At that moment, the police officially place her under arrest. She is accused of being a suspect in the murder of Kim. The entire crowd watches in shock as the powerful Seol is escorted away by the police. Yoo-suk is also watching her leave. After that, he calls a hacker named Chon, who is examining a mysterious burner phone connected to the case. He manages to unlock it. Inside the phone, he discovers something shocking. Someone installed a spy application on the device. This app secretly records phone calls and even the sounds around the phone. Even though the phone is locked by fingerprint security, Chon manages to access some saved files. He finds a list of audio recordings. These recordings might contain important evidence about the case. Here, the interrogation begins. Hyo-sung reminds her that she lied during the previous witness interview. From this moment forward, she must think carefully before answering any questions. Then, the questioning begins again. The detective asks her one simple question. Where were you at the time of the incident? Previously, Seol said she was in the auction team office when Kim died. The detective asks if her answer is still the same. For a moment, Seol hesitates. The investigators notice this and start laying out the timeline. At a certain time that night, Kim got off the elevator on the 10th floor and went up to the rooftop to smoke. A short time later, Seol also got off on the 10th floor. About 20 minutes later, Kim fell from the rooftop and died. The police even have a witness who claims they saw Seol running away from the rooftop. The detective leans forward and tells her to just confess. Then she admits something important. She says the detectives are right. That night, she did go to the rooftop to find Kim. However, she claims that when she arrived there, Kim had already taken her own life. Seol explains that she did not tell the police this before because she was afraid it might cause a misunderstanding. Seeing Kim's body terrified her, so she panicked and ran away. Now Seol seems confident because there is no direct evidence proving she pushed Kim. But the police still have several pieces of circumstantial evidence. There is an autopsy report that suggests the possibility of murder, along with CCTV footage and a witness statement. With that much evidence, even a judge could consider the case suspicious. Later, inside the visitation room at the police station, Do-eun comes to see Seol. He promises that he will do everything he can to help her. Seol remains silent, but Do-eun reassures her. He trusts her completely. Then we see that she whispers something to him. After that, Do-eun reaches the company and starts looking for something. Just then, Yoo-suk arrives and asks, "Are you looking for this memory card?" Do-eun is shocked, asking, "How do you know about it?" Then, through a flashback, we come to know that Yoo-suk gets the lisping of what Seol whispers to him, and that is, check the monitor in the exhibition room. This suggests that important evidence might exist on a monitor connected to an art installation. Now Yoo-suk begins to suspect that someone may have tampered with evidence after the incident. Do-eun also makes his position clear. He says he did not come to protect Seol simply because she is his friend. He came because he trusts her. But trust alone is not enough. If they want to uncover the truth, they must find out who Seol really is. Then, at the station, we see that the case seems to be closing in on Seol. Something surprising happens. A new piece of evidence appears. Yoo-suk submits video footage from a media art installation at the exhibition. The footage clearly shows her appearing inside the artwork display. More importantly, the metadata timestamp on the video shows the exact time. The timestamp matches the moment when Kim fell from the rooftop. If the timestamp is accurate, Seol could not have been on the rooftop at that time. This could become a perfect alibi. After reviewing the new evidence, the higher authorities step in. They tell the detectives to close the Kim case. Eventually, Seol is released. Outside the station, she meets Yoo-suk, who helped her. She thanks him for helping her. Then she leaves. The next day, Seol comes to work at the royal auction, and Eun-hye sees her. Meanwhile, Yoo-suk is given another case. But Yoo-suk is still thinking about Seol and quickly leaves. Meanwhile, President Kim says, "We were about to send a legal team to you, but you came before that. By the way, the auction went very well." Meanwhile, Yoo-suk comes to meet the hacker named Chon, who is playing football. Yoo-suk asks where the audio files are. Chon says, but all these audio files are related to Miss Han Seol. Then he sends all the files to Yoo-suk. Then Yoo-suk tells him, "You have another job to do. You have to find and trace Han-soo." Han-soo none other than the suspect in the murder case of his sister, who was his ex. Then we see Suk listens to the entire recording, but he does not find anything concrete, and from here, he looks to Seol's apartment. He looks there, and just like that, Kim was keeping watch from the same apartment. Only then he notices something in the mini house. There are two persons in front of it, and one is Kim's own because she used to do TV. But suddenly she switched to royal auctions there. But the other guy is a doctor because he's wearing a coat and a surgical mask, and it suddenly dawns on Suk that Seol's second victim was a psychiatrist, and he was also a doctor. Meanwhile, Seol suffers from insomnia and can't sleep, so she comes to the doctor, and the doctor says, "I'm your family doctor, so I'm prescribing these pills for the last time, but you have to stay away from these pills. They don't work on you yet. You should go to therapy." But Seol says, "No. My experience wasn't good." And then you see that when Seol goes to Dr. Choi, the second victim, who is a doctor, he had misbehaved with her and touched her inappropriately. Then Suk comes to meet the same nurse, and he asks the nurse if the doctor was Seol's partner at the time, and he shows her a photo, and the nurse says yes, and also tells him that he was dating a TV reporter before that, and I don't think Seol knew about that. Months later, she had even broken up with that TV reporter. And she was also strange. She would bring food, but being a doctor, Chai had refused. But Kim says, "If you don't eat with me, I'll kill myself." The doctor tries to stop her, but he gets a chopstick on his cheek, and he bleeds. The nurse sees it. Now at present, the nurse tells him that her monthly period is after that. She becomes his patient in a way. The psychiatrist won't have any relationship with her, so he sends her to a countertransference center. Here, Seol meets the same man who took the paintings, and he thanks Seol and gives the chairwoman a ticket to Busan, saying, "We'll auction off the 5 paintings there, the 5 for which the chairwoman had given her a quotation." Then Seol comes and gives it to the chairwoman. In the next scene, Seol is looking at the paintings. Suddenly, Suk comes in and says, "I have something to tell you. You know, Kim was stalking you, and do you know why? Not because of Yong-soo, but because of Dr. Chai. That was her ex." Suk says she must be wondering what her future will be if she dates the doctor, but you took everything from her, and she became obsessed with it. So she followed you to the royal auction and went from being a TV anchor to an intern. Seol says so she ended up her because of it. Suk says he doesn't know. Someone else might have killed her. But what did you gain from her death and your 3 exes? Then Seol says, "I have not gained anything till date. I have lost everything till date. That's why I also ask myself the same question and start getting confused here." Then suddenly, she becomes unconscious, and Suk takes her to the hospital. Here, the doctor tells Suk that she should not take the medicine for insomnia. After that, Suk comes back and checks that Seol is not here. Here we see that Seol has come to meet Yun-bium, the CEO of your home, and here she is looking at a painting of a fire. Here we find out that Seol's mom and dad died in a fire accident, and Seol was the only survivor of that accident. Then she meets Yun-bium, and Yun-bium says, "Your offer is good, and I will also get a profit. I'm not just attracted to numbers, but I'm also attracted to people." Then Seol says, "I don't do my business like that," and starts walking away. Yun-bium says, "Wait," and holds her hand. Seol says, "I thought you were the owner of a unicorn company, so you must have different feelings, and I don't like it at all when business and personal matters are involved." Then Yun-bium says, "Okay, I'll deal with you." On the other side, Suk is listening to the audio recording. While Seol's talking to the bar owner says, "You can interrupt me. It's okay. You didn't cry even to your parents." Here she says it was my fault. All this happens with me. And the bar owner warns her that if she continues living like this, one day she will completely collapse. But Seol quietly responds with heartbreaking words. She says she does not have the right to fall apart, because when the accident happened years ago, she survived instead of her parents. The guilt of surviving has stayed with her ever since. Meanwhile, Do-eun is taking a unique photograph. Just then, Suk comes and says, "Tell me everything about Seol. What happened in her childhood? Tell me." Then Do-eun reveals the truth. When they were 10 years old, Seol lost her parents in a tragic accident. A fire broke out in their home. Seol was the only survivor. I can't tell you anything more than this, that her life is very difficult. Here, Eun-hai comes and warns Suk to stay away from Seol. She believes Seol will only bring trouble into his life. After that, Suk researches about Seol and tells Detective Yoo Jong everything. Suk says, "I think she has bad luck. just like my sister, and people misunderstand her. Her bed is going on somewhere, and she's following up tragedy after tragedy. I feel like it's just her bad luck, and I'm pushing her through hell. Meanwhile, Seal comes home, getting ready to go somewhere, and talking to the bar owner. The owner says, "You don't need to go there." Seal says, "I have to go. I have to pay respect." Then she puts the medicine in the dustbin. Then we find out that there's a memorial for Seal's ex-husband, Yong-soo, and she's at the ceremony. Yong-soo's mom and his brother are there, and his mom scolds her, and Yoo-suk's watching this. And then the mom says, "He went against all of us and married you. If he hadn't met you, he would be alive today." Then Yong-ju's brother says, "I need to talk to you." He tells her it's an insurance policy. "My brother bought it, but just before he died, he canceled it." "What's that for?" That insurance guy also calls again and again. And that day that woman also came and was telling that Yong-ju has also taken an insurance policy. And here we are shown that this woman is none other than Kim. Meanwhile, Yong-soo's brother is saying, "You did this for the insurance, right? You were the beneficiary, and when my brother got suspicious, he withdrew the name and you killed him. If you don't answer, I'll ask that woman." Then Seal says, "She's no longer alive." Then Yong-soo's brother says, "So that means you killed her, right?" He's forcing her hard, hitting her on the shoulders several times. It happens. Then suddenly, Yoo-suk comes in and he asks, "Who are you?" Yoo-suk says, "I'm the same insurance agent who called you." Then everyone is showing respect. Here, Do-eun sees that Seal is not behind. Here Seal stands alone and takes off her ex-husband's ring and throws it away, saying how happy she was on the boat that day when he proposed. Then Yoo-suk comes from behind and asks, "What's the point of all this? Everyone's in trouble, even your parents." Seal looks back and he says, "Did you lose everything?" She says, "Do you still think I killed someone?" She says, "Yes. Who will believe me?" And then she starts crying, tears streaming down her face, and she holds back, about to jump. Suddenly, Yoo-suk grabs her hand and says, "Are you crazy?" He hugs her and makes her sit down. Meanwhile, she says, "If I disappear, this will all be over. I don't care. I want to die. Why are you stopping me? What else do you want to know?" Yoo-suk says, "I want to know everything about you." And here the episode ends. If you want next episode, please let us know in the comment section.